Hi there, I'm Coach Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we're going to be talking to you about what do avoidants need? What do they need?
A big question mark.
It's so frustrating, isn't it?
It is.
So confusing.
Yeah. Before we get into it, I did want to say that Craig and I are available for coaching sessions. So if you would like to talk about your situation one-on-one with one of us, you can do that by heading to the website and booking from there.
We're happy to help you out and help you understand avoidance. You know, when I launched the channel all those years ago, nobody was talking about attachment theory, and certainly in not regards to breakups. So we have seen so much growth in understanding attachment theory, which I really do love because that really helps people understand what's going on and navigating their breakup easier, right? Because when you understand how somebody attaches, you understand that they probably need different things than you do. And you have to learn this so you can figure out what they need and how you can give it to them. Because it takes a lot of emotional self-control to give them what they need. You're wanting to give them what you need or have them meet your needs. So you got to find that balance there. It's important to understand these things if you're going to make it work with somebody who is more avoidant. So in this video, we're going to talk about it and give you a better understanding of the avoidant attachment style.
Exactly. The first thing that avoidants need, and you've probably heard us say this over and over and over again, this is probably going to be consistent with what you hear from other outlets, but avoidants need space. Their biggest need is more space. And this can be something that's difficult for you to understand, especially if you have more of an anxious attachment style. You start to think, well, what exactly is space? I didn't text them back for a day, or I haven't seen them for 2 days. You know, what does space look like? It can look like some space between messaging. It can look like some distance in physical proximity and how often you see them and the pacing. It can also mean space for them to invest in their friendships, in other areas of their life, in their hobbies, at work.
Yeah.
It can mean physical space sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it can be a symbol of their attachment. You know, if they're feeling crowded in, or maybe it's the way you're hovering over them quite literally, it can mean physical space as well. So this is what we mean when we talk about giving an avoidant space, giving them some time between some interactions to process everything that happens. If you are more anxious, you have a higher tolerance for emotional situations happening back to back, or emotional interactions. You know, you have a higher tolerance for closeness and intimacy. For the avoidant attacher, they don't have that same luxury. They need a bit more space to process what's happened. They have a much smaller emotional battery.
Yeah.
So
they need that autonomy. It's big for them. You know, my stepbrother and I are very close, and you know, I'm seeing as he gets older, he's more and more avoidant, right? And so because we're so close and he talks about his relationships, I'm seeing I'm talking to somebody on, I don't know, several times a week basis about the space and the autonomy that they need. And it's very interesting because it's hard to get an avoidant to open up about those things. But because him and I are so close, it's easy for him to just talk about those things. Whereas like, he was telling me some things about his life that his new girlfriend doesn't know about. And I was like, well, this is some kind of surprising things that I figured she would know. And he goes, yeah, but that's my life. She doesn't need to know about that. And he didn't mean it in a mean way. It's just like, she doesn't need to know about this particular thing. And it's not something like bad or anything like that. It's just something about his hobbies that she doesn't know about. He likes crack, is what I'm trying to say. I'm just going to
expose him like that.
Yeah, he loves crack. No, but I'm going to leave it private because, you know, he didn't say I could talk about it. Right. But it's nothing that he is doing wrong in any way, shape, or form outside of the relationship. But it was just very interesting to hear him talking about how he likes to have that independent side to himself that she doesn't really need to know about or be a part of. So it's really interesting to hear somebody talk about that. And now I'm hearing him say more and more things. Well, I like to do this thing, or I'd like to do that thing by myself. And he's happy in the relationship. He's not complaining. He's just saying, I like to have that space to do my things.
Yeah. And it's interesting because for somebody who's more secure, part of the goal of relationships is to be fully known. So,
all right.
or
So
as much as you can.
What's the next one?
The next one is structure.
Structure?
And this one is important because avoidants come on very strong in the beginning, and many of you get swept up. Okay,
oh, yeah.
We understand. Trust me. The beginning of the relationship, it can be high intensity, it can be very romantic, it can be a lot of closeness. And it can be more closeness than even the avoidant can handle, even if they are the ones coming on strong. So you have that opportunity to create some structure. You are creating a dynamic when you get swept up by these types of behaviors. So you can say, no, I'm going to set the pace here too. Let's create some space to set us up for a healthy relationship rather than going all at once. So this kind of creates that structure for them.
Yeah, and even with like their own physical space, like their homes, they're kind of rigid in the way they like to do things and the way they have their patterns and structures. And if you go into their home, they're like, I want you to do it like this. Those little things really bothers them more than the anxious people that are so happy to have you there. They're like a Labrador, right?
Right.
They're like a Labrador retriever. Come, do whatever. Jump on the couch. Whatever. But the avoidants are like, I'm not sure if you should be here anyway. So you better put your shoes by the door. I don't want them walking in my house.
So that's a good point. Avoidants have typically some strong boundaries there. So in the beginning, in moments where maybe those boundaries are a bit more porous, we don't want to take advantage of that. We want to keep the structure by respecting their boundaries and their limits. And next big one that avoidants need is reliability. Now, avoidants, as tough as they might seem on the outside, they are sensitive to being let down. They're sensitive to unreliability. And the reason for this is because they've experienced it so much that unreliability that they experience now in the future confirms some of that negative thinking. And I knew that they were going to disappoint me.
Yeah, and they get really angry. And their anger is almost disproportionate because they're really angry at their parents for not being reliable. And so as a partner, they're almost going to blame you and have so much hurt and anger built up about what their parents did that they explode on you over small things.
Right. And this leads us right into the next one, which is patience. This is patience, okay? And I understand this is a tough one because someone being avoidant can be extremely irritating. You're just sitting there, maybe it's 3 days and they haven't texted you back and you just are ready to...
That anxiety, it just starts building inside of you.
It does, and it can be so irritating.
Yeah.
And so patience is what is needed sometimes. And of course, everyone has their own tolerance levels. Everybody has their own limits. You don't have to be in a relationship with somebody who's avoidant. Just want to put that out there. But if you are, you're going to have to be patient with some of their distancing tactics. There are some people even in friendships that won't reply back for several days. There are people who really take their time with interacting with people. And doesn't mean that you have to put up with it all the time, right? But it does take patience and understanding as a person works through their own attachment issues. Another big one is they need that safety to be able to express emotionally. So many of us can be quite anxious, and when we start to see somebody who's more avoidant open up, we have a million questions, and I'm guilty of this too. Start asking questions. I start the whole interrogation process. We start to see them being vulnerable with us, and maybe we haven't heard some of the things that they are telling us. It's new information to us. We want to know. You have to create a safe environment for them to keep opening up. And silence can be your best friend in some of these situations. So keep that in mind. If you do have an avoidant that's starting to open up, you want to make it safe for them because likely they haven't had that many safe environments for them to open up. A lot of them have this idea of the times I do open up, it's either used against me, people don't listen to me, other people don't care, it's not important, it's weak. So creating that safe environment of, no, what you have to say is valuable, it matters, I want to hear it, thank you for sharing this. That can create that sense of safety there.
Yeah, that's a big one. All those things that you just said are big.
This also goes into having security in a partner. So ideally, both of you are working towards attachment security together. But what I mean in this is that for many avoidants, they want their partner to know, hey, I need space, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I love you less. I may need some time to recharge. I might need time on my own. It doesn't mean I'm not here for you, or I'm not committed to this relationship. For some avoidants, I'll say that. And this is important because as somebody who's more anxious, we see this type of behavior, we see the distancing, and it immediately activates our attachment insecurity. So we start to push, we start to question, we start to want to press harder and say, well, what's going on here? Do you not love me? Do you not care about me? I feel like you're not into this. And that creates more obligation, a lot more guilt onto the avoidant partner, which, what do they do with negative feelings? They suppress it. They try to avoid. So that makes them even more avoidant. And then you have the anxious avoidant trap right there.
Yep.
So keep that in mind. Your security actually is something that supports somebody who's more avoidant.
Yep. So trust and independence is very important to them. And it's hard to understand it because you want to be close. But for them, that just makes them feel trapped. And they hate that feeling. It's a very uncomfortable feeling. They don't want to be controlled. I mean, who wants to be controlled? But they don't like to be told what to do because they grew up having to manage things for themselves and figure things out for themselves. So they feel like, I can handle this myself. I don't need you. I don't need anyone. And so now part of them does, but you don't want to make them feel like they lose that independence. Otherwise, it's just going to make them feel like, this isn't working for me. So they really need no pressure, no obligations, and no pushing boundaries. And it's tough to manage that because things are going to come up for like obligations. We have to go to my sister's wedding. You got to do this thing for work. Right. But for them, when they experience that, it's just very uncomfortable.
Right. And so it does take a lot of security in someone to be able to handle this type of relationship. Okay, so if you are watching this and you do want your relationship with somebody who's more avoidant to work, that means also working on yourself. Okay, this doesn't just mean presenting this information to your avoidant and say, hey, fix yourself, all right? So avoidants also need therapy. On that same note, while we can't force our avoidant partner to go to therapy, we can suggest if we're in a relationship. I don't suggest that you do this while in a breakup. Many times they get angry. They're like, why are you telling me what to do? We're not even together.
Yeah.
So if you are in a relationship with somebody who's avoidant, this is something that you can bring up. Be very careful about your tone. Bring this up with gentleness and with the best intention. The reason why therapy can be so helpful for somebody who has more of an avoidant attachment style is because many times it's that relationship itself with the therapist that helps their attachment. Yeah. So they need that type of contained environment with a professional that can help them work through those issues so that they can, come up with their own insights, be able to self-reflect, and ultimately change their behavior because they want to, because this is stemming from them and they see the importance of it. As a partner, what you can do is you can be a good role model for them. You can model for them what it's like to be able to express emotions in a healthy way. When you're angry, you don't blow up, you don't yell at them, you don't criticize them. You express that in a healthy way. You're able to communicate, you're able to talk. And that starts to create, a different pattern in the relationship, and it quite literally changes the wiring of your brain, of their brain, of what they're exposed to, of what they see. So you have a lot more power in some of these situations than you think.
Yep. Dating an avoidant is not for everyone.
Proceed with caution. At your own risk.
No matter who you date, they're going to have issues. They're going to have their own attachment issues. So it's good to educate yourself and understand what you're really getting into and how to handle them and what they need. Now, of course, you have to balance your own needs and if they can meet those needs for you. It's not easy to do, to find that balance. That's why you got to work on yourself and really come to a place within yourself where you know what makes you happy, whether you can be with your particular avoidant or you're willing to date one, because many of you are attached or you love somebody who is avoidant and you want to work it out with them. Well, you need to think about a lot of different things especially while you're in no contact. This is the perfect opportunity for you to grow and reflect and see if this is what you want.
Exactly. We're hoping that this video can be helpful, and if you are in the situation yourself, maybe you are avoidant yourself, maybe you are dating an avoidant, write down below things that have been helpful in your relationships, things that you may need, things that you believe that your partner needs and that you've seen actually helped your relationship prosper.
And the workbooks and the creative healing course are going to help you really understand yourself and avoidance.
Exactly.
Okay. So hopefully this one's been helpful to you. And of course, if you want to get our help personally, you could do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Coach Victoria is also available for Skype coaching.
I'm here whenever you'd like to chat.
Just click on her name at the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.